You think your kindness makes you good, but what if it's not virtue at all? What if it's just survival dressed up as compassion? Let me tell you about Sarah. She was the person everyone called when they needed something. 3 a.m. crisis. Sarah's awake, brewing coffee while talking her friend through a breakup. Last-minute favor, Sarah will cancel her weekend plans without hesitation. Someone needs money, time, emotional labor. Sarah's already there before they finish asking, purse open and calendar cleared. And everyone loved her for it. They called her generous, selfless, the kindest person they knew. Her phone buzzed constantly with requests, each one met with an immediate yes. But here's what they didn't see. Sarah at 2 in the morning, staring at her phone's glowing screen, heart racing at 120 beats per minute because someone's text tone went off and her nervous system screamed danger. Sarah saying yes when every cell in her body wanted to say no, jaw clenched, stomach knotted. Sarah collapsing in her car after giving everything away, forehead pressed against the steering wheel, wondering why she felt so hollow inside despite all the gratitude she received. That wasn't kindness. The fawn response, you've heard of fight or flight, maybe even freeze. But fawn is the one nobody talks about because it doesn't look like trauma, it looks like being nice. It's the fourth survival mechanism, first formally described by therapist Pete Walker in his work on complex PTSD, and it works like this. When you're faced with a threat you can't escape or overpower, you become exactly what that threat needs you to be. You read the room with hypervigilant precision. You adjust your personality like turning a dial. You make yourself useful, agreeable, indispensable, anticipating needs before they're spoken, because if they need you, they won't hurt you. And when you're a child in an unstable environment where a parent's mood can shift without warning, that adaptation keeps you alive. Your nervous system learns through repeated experience. Danger is everywhere, and the only way to survive is to dissolve yourself into whatever keeps the peace. So you do. You become the peacemaker, the helper, the one who never complains. And it works. Here's the part that makes this so insidious. It gets rewarded. Your boss loves that you never push back on unrealistic deadlines. Your friends love that you're always available at 2 a.m. for their crises. Your partner loves that you never voice needs or make demands. Society sees your self-erasure and calls it emotional intelligence. Empathy, being a good person, and you believe it, you have to. Because if your kindness isn't virtue, if it's just a trauma response keeping you safe from abandonment, then what does that make you? So you double down, you perform more kindness. You give more, saying yes to the project nobody wants, covering shifts you can barely handle, organizing events while neglecting your own doctor's appointments. You sacrifice more. And the exhaustion grows into something physical, tension, headaches, disrupted sleep, a constant weight in your chest. But you can't stop. Because stopping means facing the question you've been running from your entire life. Who are you when you're not useful to someone else? The silence after that question is deafening. Hypervigilance doesn't look like paranoia when you're the kind person in the room. It looks like attentiveness. You notice when someone's mood shifts before they say a word, the slight downturn at the corner of their mouth, the half-second pause before they respond. You track micro-expressions, tone changes, the slightest tension in someone's shoulders, the way their jaw tightens when they're holding something back. You're reading threat levels constantly, but you call it being considerate, being present. Your nervous system is running a full-time security operation, scanning for danger in every interaction, monitoring exit routes, calculating how quickly someone could escalate, rehearsing de-escalation scripts in real time, and you've labeled that exhausting surveillance as caring deeply about others. But here's the truth. You're not picking up on their needs because you're empathetic. You're picking up on their needs because your survival once depended on predicting and managing other people's emotional states before they became dangerous. You learn to read a room the way soldiers learn to scan for tripwires. That's not connection. That's hypervigilance with a smile. Sarah started noticing it during a work meeting. Her manager made a comment, nothing harsh, just a neutral observation about a project timeline slipping by 3 days. And Sarah felt her chest tighten. Her heart rate spiked. Her mind immediately started running scenarios. Was he disappointed? Was she about to be criticized in front of the whole team? What did she need to say right now to fix whatever she'd broken? She jumped in with solutions, offered to take on extra work, smiled wider, spoke faster. And afterward, sitting in her car with her hands still trembling slightly on the steering wheel, she realized she'd just volunteered for 60 extra hours because someone used a slightly different tone. That's when it clicked. This wasn't generosity or dedication. This was a smoke alarm going off at the smell of toast. Her nervous system couldn't tell the difference between mild discomfort and mortal danger, so it treated everything like a crisis that required immediate appeasement. The cruelest part, the people who benefit from your fawn response rarely see it as trauma. They see it as your personality, as who you are. And when you try to set a boundary, when you finally say no after months or years of automatic yes, they're confused, hurt, sometimes angry, because you've trained them to expect your self-erasure. You've been so consistent in your disappearing that they've built their relationship with you on the foundation of your absence. They've grown comfortable with a version of you that bends, accommodates, and never pushes back. And now you're asking them to see you as a person with needs, limits, capacity, but they can't. Not because they're monsters, but because you've been invisible for so long that your sudden presence feels like a betrayal of an unspoken contract. And a part of you agrees with them. That voice in your head that says you're being selfish, difficult, unkind when you decline one request, that's not your conscience speaking. Here's what changed for Sarah. She started tracking it. Every time she said yes, she wrote down what she was actually feeling, and the pattern was undeniable. Every yes came with a spike of anxiety. Every favor came with a calculation: if I don't do this, what will happen? And 90% of the time, the feared consequence was completely imagined. Nobody was going to abandon her for saying she was busy. Nobody was going to rage at her for having boundaries. But her nervous system didn't know that. It was still operating on the logic of a child who learned that her value was conditional on her usefulness. So she started small, 1 no per week, just one, and she sat with the panic that followed, let it wash through her without fixing it, without apologizing, without taking the no back. And slowly the panic decreased. Her nervous system started learning a new truth: she could disappoint someone and survive it. The neuroscience backs this up. Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory shows that our nervous system has a social engagement mode, mediated by the ventral vagal complex, that's supposed to help us connect authentically. But when that system is chronically hijacked by threat detection, connection becomes transaction. You're not relating to people, you're managing them like a chess game, anticipating their needs before they vocalize discomfort. And your body pays the cost in measurable ways. Chronic fawning correlates with autoimmune disorders, chronic fatigue, and fibromyalgia. Your immune system literally attacks itself because your nervous system never stops signaling danger, flooding your bloodstream with cortisol and inflammatory markers. The kindness you've been praised for, the late-night availability, the dropped boundaries, the automatic yes, is eating you alive from the inside, one compromised cell at a time. And nobody wants to talk about it, because it's uncomfortable to admit that the person who's always there for everyone is actually disappearing into their own trauma response, becoming smaller with each interaction. So what now? You can't just stop being kind. That feels impossible, dangerous, like removing the only thing that makes you acceptable. But here's the reframe: real kindness, actual compassion, comes from choice, not compulsion. It comes from a place of fullness, not emptiness desperately trying to fill itself by being needed. When you give from obligation, from fear, from the desperate hope that this will finally make you safe, that's not kindness, that's a transaction. And you're getting a terrible deal. Learning to distinguish between generous giving and fawn response giving is the work. It means noticing the panic that floods your chest when you even think about saying no. It means sitting with the physical discomfort of not being immediately useful, feeling your hands twitch with the urge to fix. It means letting people be disappointed without swooping in to repair their feelings. That's not selfishness, that's healing. And it feels like dying at first, like watching yourself disappear, because in a way it is. Sarah told me something 6 months into her boundary setting practice. She said the weirdest thing happened. She started feeling kind again, not the performative, compulsive kind, the real kind. The kind that came from actually wanting to help, not from terror of what would happen if she didn't. She said it felt lighter, simpler, like the difference between giving someone a gift because you want to see them smile versus giving them a gift because you're afraid they'll leave if you don't. Same action. Completely different experience. That's the other side of this work. You don't lose your capacity for kindness when you heal your fawn response. You gain the ability to choose it. And that choice, that agency, that's what actual goodness looks like, not self-destruction dressed up as virtue. But there's one more uncomfortable truth I haven't told you yet. In tomorrow's video, we'll explore why the people you're sacrificing yourself for might actually resent your kindness. Subscribe so you don't miss it. If the video resonated with you, hit subscribe. Uncomfortable Truths drops a new uncomfortable truth tomorrow and every day after on personal finance, relationships, mindset, and productivity, and more. Turn on notifications so you're first to see it. The truth is uncomfortable, but it's always worth it.